時間都到啦。
All right, it's about time. We have attained the quorum. Shall we invite the administration in, please?
係，好多謝各位。
Thank you very much for coming. With us for this morning, Ms. Ivy Law, Deputy Secretary for Transport and Housing, Ms. Adrian Lam, Assistant Secretary for Transport and Housing. From the Transport Department, Principal Transport Officer, Ms. Candy Kwok, and Chief Transport Officer, Mr. So-Chan Chin. Welcome. I'd like to invite the administration to walk us through the paper, please. Chairman, thank you. This is about scheduled the Thailand Tunnel Yuen Long Approach Road Ordinance and Western Harbour Crossing Ordinance Amendment Schedule 1, Notice 2018. There is statutory fair toll adjustment mechanism for the two tunnels. If the actual net revenue is less than the maximum estimated net revenue, they can apply to the government to increase the toll unless the administration is unhappy with the NRS. The administration has no authority to not approve. The notice is to amend the schedule to reflect the toll increase, and the notice the notices have gone into effect on the 1st of August and 31st of July. The two companies offer concessions to various types of vehicles, and they are charging less than the statutory fees. The concession fees will remain unchanged for the two tunnels, and they will not be affected by the changes as indicated in the notices. We are happy to answer members' questions. Thanks very much. Deputy Secretary, Dr. Kwok. I'm not going to impose any time limit. Yes, up to you, Chairman, if you want to cut me short. Deputy Secretary, the government is talking with the WHC franchisee, the unwelcome proposal to allow them to put up the toll or to reduce the toll, whereas the Eastern Harbour Crossing and the Cross Harbour Tunnel will put up their toll to introduce more traffic into the WHC. There is a long way from the statutory fare, a motorcycle 140, private car 240. That's a statutory toll. I'm not sure how this is worked out. Is it the case that the government will be pouring money into the company in order to push more traffic to the WHC? In other words, the government is pouring money into the pockets of these franchisees. And that's point number one. Second, the statutory toll is high enough. In July 2019, it's likely to be revised upwards till 2023. So I'm not sure what the agreement is like with the WHC after 2020. I don't know how you can secure the support of Let's Go, but it is the government's intention to introduce this in 2020. In other words, they're going to have the toll hike 2 more times, in particular under the WHC ordinance. Second, now how will this affect the statutory increase? With more traffic, the government will pump more money into the company. They will be sitting on a lot of cash. Will the statutory toll be put up as aggressively as it is now? Second, there are no criteria per se. They're charging $70 for private cars and $25 for motorcycle. It is more like arbitrary. WHC 50, EHC 45. I think that they have worked out the figures and pushed people in the direction of the WHC. Now for the other tunnels, it's going to be $40 per tunnel. How will this agreement work in future? Will there be any changes to the statutory toll? Or is it the case that this is a commercial deal and from 2020 to 2023 there will be a new regime brought in and the toll will be fixed at a certain level? What are the details in your proposal? Before the two notices come into effect, I'm sure the government must have thought about the changes in future. Right? Ms. Ivy Law? Chairman, thank you. As regards the diversion of traffic between the three tunnels, the Transport Panel, the Bureau has already given members a full account. These notices are about the toll increase. If I may, Chairman, respond to Dr. Kwok's point about the diversion between the three tunnels. Now, the idea is to utilize the spare capacity of the WHC. By comparison, during the peak hours, there are 10 to 14% spare capacity available at the WHC that is not used. So in the interest of the common good, the administration would like to take full advantage of this spare capacity to alleviate the traffic congestion at the WHC and EHC and reduce the congestion through the harbour traffic. So we have reached an agreement with the company. In the coming years, they will charge a fixed toll. For private vehicles, it is $50. And all private vehicles from 2020 through to the time the franchise expires, they will pay this level of toll. So the WHC will charge less in the way of toll because they're not charging this level at the present moment in order to enable the WHC to tie in with the government's move. We have reached an agreement with WHC and subsidize the actual toll, not the statutory toll. We agree with them on a particular level and compensate for the differential. And this compensation is intended to subsidize those using WHC. Dr. Kwok has a question that with higher patronage at the WHC, the net revenue for WHC will increase. Now, the answer is yes, because we like to have higher utilization at the WHC. If the actual net revenue is less than the estimated net revenue, they can apply for a hike. For the WHC, there are two levels. They have the upper estimated net revenue and also the maximum and minimum estimated net revenue. If they fail to reach the lower estimated net revenue, they can apply for an increase. If the actual net revenue is higher than the revenue, the estimated net revenue, they will put 50% of the excess into the toll stability fund. So next time when they apply for an increase, they need to claw money back from that fund to offset against the deficit. So if they hit the maximum estimated net revenue, then the excess 50% of the excess will have to be put into the stability fund. So if they want to put up the toll, they have to use the money from the stability fund before putting up the toll. Dr. Kwok, there are members on the queue. I allow 8 minutes for each member. How many times have they reached the maximum estimated net revenue in the past? At that committee meeting, we endorsed, or panel meeting, we endorsed the non-binding motions for the government to withdraw the proposal. At least the government should not radically change the WXC, the EHC and the CHT too much. I don't think it's got anything to do with these notices at all. So if they reach the maximum estimated net revenue, they can put the money into the stability fund. How much money is there? Chairman, from its inception to now, the two franchisees have failed to reach the maximum level. So that won't happen, would they? So they can put up the toll to the heart's content, can they? Well, Chairman, historically, they have not reached this particular level. Since they have not reached that level, they cannot reduce the rate of increase. That's on an annual basis. If they don't reach that level 1 year, doesn't mean that they don't reach that level the next year. And because they have the actual net revenue, the upper and the maximum estimated net revenue. Mr. Wuchiwai? Chairman, the notices don't have any particular significance, but I'd like to hear from the administration here. Will you come up with some information for us? When the toll is put up, there would be a phenomenon that because of the toll hike, the utilization would come down a little bit, and once people have got used to it, things will be back to normal. So I'd like to find out more about the level of demand as a result of the toll hike, and because I'd like to find out whether the toll would be a good enough instrument to control the traffic. Second, when the government negotiated with the WHC, how come you reached the 50-40-40 agreement? And what difference would that make to the traffic flow? I'm sure the WHC would also consider this before reaching agreement with the administration regarding this 50-40-40. If it is 40-30-30, they may not be happy with it, or maybe the administration is not happy with it. So this whole basket of considerations, what is the projected traffic flow for the tunnel, and in the process, there is also the costs involved for the WHC, it's a matter of how they look at their account. From an economic point of view, it's all a question of supply and demand.
I'm not sure whether you can provide this information to the public so that we can have a better understanding of the flexibility demand of the road users. We would want to know what impact it would bring along with this fee adjustment. I know that the Transport Department has already said many times that there's been many different modelings for the toll adjustment. I would just like to know about the compare and contrast. For example, there are 4 tunnels from Sha Tin leading to the urban area, and then there are 3 cross harbour tunnels. But I cannot only use the toll as a theory, but then if there is a bottleneck in a certain area that would affect the traffic, then it would depend on how you define a bottleneck. Well, is the area in Yau Chin Wang leading to WHC part of such a bottleneck? I don't have an understanding of the modeling done by the government. Therefore, it is very difficult for me to understand. In principle, this is just a sort of technical amendment of the notice. The operator is still charging a fee lower than the maximum. But adjusting the toll will actually impact bus companies and other commercial vehicles. So can buses be waived from the toll? The concept of waiving bus toll, I'm not sure if I understand this correctly. The government will try to adopt a reimbursement model to give this back to the bus company. If you put it this way, if you look at it from the perspective of the bus companies do not know how high the reimbursement would be, because if they know the amount of reimbursement, the bus operators can just take out the cost of crossing the tunnel in the budget. Because every year the bus operators will submit a paper with all the cost, including the cost of tunnel. And there is this mechanism. But with that is considered part of the cost, and you have to wait for the government to reimburse the tunnel cost, then maybe you should just tell the bus operators to take this out of the budget. The public thus cannot really understand whether the fee adjustment for bus fares are appropriate or not, because you would have to wait for the bus companies to submit a budget including the tunnel fee, and then having the government reimburse it back to the bus operator, and then maybe the bus operator will only be charging 8% less. Well, if you're talking about the tunnel, then I think that the secretary can answer. But then if you're talking about bus operators, I think that you are deviating from the topic. Well, yes, I do not have too much reservations about the ordinance. But I just want to try to understand from the administration what the operations are, because if you have to put it up to panel, I don't really have enough time to answer. I'm just trying to remind you. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Wu. Mr. Wu has always been exchanging ideas with us. I would try to answer this question as detailed as possible. The increase in toll, whether it affects the number of vehicles taking the harbour, you will see the number on the website every month, because the number is updated every month. So this is just a number for your reference. Secondly, we have made an agreement with the WHC to try to deviate cars to other tunnels. We have put the report on our website as well. We can send you the link, and members who are interested can download the report, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have in relation to the report. I'm sorry, I'd like to interrupt. I understand that these reports exist. However, there is a very important assumption. What is the flexibility of demand? +1 or -1? These are part of very important information. In the past, we see that when the fees are adjusted downward, then you would see a drop in the number of users for a short period of time before it rises back. If you just give me a set of raw data, I cannot just assume the demand from that number. I just like to know about the details. Deputy Secretary, well, this is not only raw data. The TD would assess the tunnels and the roads taken by users. And a survey would also be conducted asking users which tunnel they prefer and which one is more convenient. So there would be detailed analysis. On the question by Mr. Wu, I can perhaps ask my colleague to talk through Mr. Wu on the detailed survey. Well, we're mainly talking about the amendment of schedule, so we are not able to give you any numbers on the vehicles, of how many vehicles cross the harbor. Mr. Wu asked how we talk about the 1.8 billion. Well, it is actually a result through discussion with WHC. So we would only count it when a vehicle goes by. So 1.8 billion is the maximum, and we'll be able to see how many vehicles would take advantage of this toll adjustment to use the WHC. On the issue of waiving toll for buses, we are going to suggest a toll waiver, and I know that we are going to discuss it at a subcommittee very soon. My understanding is that once the bus companies do not need to pay the toll, then there would be a fund set up by the bus operators. And when they adjust their bus fares, then they will need to take out the money first from the fund. And the bus operators would be very clear on how much money there would be in the fund. The government and the WHC, in our agreement, aside from trying to deviate traffic and to provide concession to motorcycles, private cars, and taxis, they all include the waive for bus franchisees. And so we would adjust this toll to zero and set up a fund similar to the stability fund for the tunnels. But it would be an overall agreement. So if LegCo does not support the deviation of traffic for the 3 tunnels, then we may not be able to implement it. But that would not include the waive for bus operators. I think that we have already submitted this to LegCo. This is actually the responsibility of another department. I think that it has already been submitted to Letio. Mr. Wu, any follow-up? I understand. I was hoping to ask more questions on this part. Well, but since Ms. Law said she is not aware of all the information, I will follow up on a different occasion. The Deputy Secretary has made it very clear that that the toll adjustment would be based on a basket of factors. Maybe it can be adjusted slightly, but we do not have the information to analyze it. Any changes made to the amount would bring impact. We want to know what kind of impact it would bring to the users' habits and on which tunnel they would ultimately choose to use. We need to have more information to know how it works. We want to know whether the government is already not making much money because it's just you're still allowing WHC to adjust prices. I've talked to the transport department many times. The conclusion is that we have to believe in their model. So that's the core question here. Can you show us the model? We want to understand your modeling. I think if this is not anything is not related to national secret, I think you should really show it to us so we can better understand the model, because we want to discuss it with the same information and not trying to guess each other's motivation or to make our own assumptions. So I hope that the administration will consider, since you already have this information, to disclose it either to academics or to the public, so that we'll be able to analyze all the numbers and come up with a better proposal. Thank you. Yes, thank you for your suggestion. The report is already uploaded on our website. I have a question myself. So you're talking about a standard of WHC of $240. Well, let's say we are able to divert tunnel traffic. Would that affect the concession in the future? Thank you, Chairman. The statutory toll has nothing to do with the agreement made with the WHC. Also, through your discussions, is it $240 or $50, and then you're going to increase it to $260 in 2020, and you're still going to charge $50? There is going to be no link between the two. No, the two has nothing to do with each other. I don't have any other questions. Members have not requested for a hearing. Perhaps we can now go through the clause-by-clause scrutiny of the notice. Mr. Adrian Lam, can you take us through? Yes, first of all is 145, which is Tai Tam Tunnel and Yuen Long Approach Road. This shows the new statutory toll, and so it is now already displayed in the schedule, all the new fee adjustments. The first one is on private motorcycles and motor tricycles. Second is private cars, electrically powered passenger vehicles, and then taxis, and then third one, public and private light buses, 4 light good vehicles, and 6 heavy goods vehicles, and 7 and 8 public and private single-deck buses and public and private double-decked buses. Well, If there are no other questions, may I refer you to 146.
加咗呢個法定。
So this is Schedule 1 as a result of the toll increase. There are different categories. The first one is motorcycles and motor tricycles. Number 2, private cars, electrically powered passenger vehicles, taxis $240, public and private light buses $290. 4, 5, 6 are about the public private light buses, medium goods vehicles and heavy goods vehicles. Number 7 are public private single-decked buses and public private double-decked buses. So much for the presentation.
OK，冇問。
Okay, no questions. I think we're done with the scrutiny of the paper. I think this is where we end our scrutiny here. I'll be making a report at the House Committee. A meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.